Hey guys, I'm back out here looking at another 3-minute blitz game that I played on chess.com. This game I'm playing with the white pieces, and let's go ahead and see what happened. So I open up with the move e4. My opponent responds e5. I develop my knight to f3, and they develop their knight to c6, keeping it symmetrical right now. And I'm going to go ahead and play the Ponziani in this opening. So I play the move c3, preparing the Ponziani. They play the move d6, and then I strike in the center with pawn to d4. So my opponent then goes ahead and attacks my knight here, and they pin it to the queen, but you can see that's a little bit of a mistake because now I'm able to do something along the lines of pawn to d4, attacking their knight and forcing it to move away. But in the game, what I did was I went ahead and broke the pin with my bishop. The computer wants me to go ahead and get my queen out here on b3 because now I've got eyes on this b7 pawn, and I've got eyes on f7, which is pretty weak overall. But in the game, I played the move bishop to e2, developing my bishop and getting ready, breaking the pin. My opponent then develops this knight. If you'll notice, this pawn is undefended, but I go ahead and try to kick the bishop away first. They drop back because they want to keep the pin, and now I go ahead and play the move queen to b4, and you can see I'm attacking the weak b7 pawn right here with my eyes on f7 in the future, though it is defended by the bishop right now. And this is where my opponent makes their first mistake of the game, unfortunately. They go ahead and play the move knight to a5. But unfortunately for them, this diagonal is open, so it's unable. So I've got a few ideas here that we've talked about in the Ponziani. My opponent thought that, oh, I'm defending the b7 pawn and attacking the queen, but unfortunately for them, they missed that I could give a check here. And you'll see the computer deems this a miss because the computer wants me to give this check instead, because if my opponent blocks with the knight, then I can push the pawn. The knight is pinned and it can't move. So I'm able to win a piece. So the way that my opponent would get out of that is by playing the move c6 instead, because now the queen defends the knight and the check is blocked and I can't take, because then they could just take back with the knight and be winning. So c6 is how my opponent would have dealt with that. So after this follow-up continuation, the c6 variation, the computer wants me to play pawn to b5 because this now traps the knight. The knight has only 2 squares it can go to here, which I would take with the bishop, or here, which I could take with the pawn or the queen. The computer wants me to take with the queen. If the opponent goes here, then I would take with the bishop, and then they would be able to fork me. So I would take with the bishop, they'd take back, and then I would get my check here. And then they could go ahead and defend. Or if they took the knight first, then I could take back with the pawn, and then this knight is still under attack, and it would be the same idea. But in the game, I played this check instead, and my opponent unfortunately played the move knight to c6 and left the b7 pawn hanging. So I won the pawn. And now, if you'll notice, this knight is undefended, so what my opponent should do is some move like, sorry, not that move. That move just gives up a rook. My opponent should just move the knight because it's undefended. But in the game, my opponent tries to develop their bishop to get their king castled, and so I just am able to pick up a free knight. And here, my opponent should block the check with the knight because it keeps the rook defended, but in the game, my opponent saw that they could block with the queen and unfortunately gave me the rook. So they then moved the queen back, and I saw that I was able to give this check, and now this king is no longer able to castle. If they block with the knight, I'll take the queen, the king can't castle, and I'll go on to win the game eventually, or I'll go on to keep their king in the center and hunt it down. But my opponent decided to play the move king to f8, and since I'm up a piece, I'm just going to go ahead and keep it simple. I trade off the queens. My opponent takes back with the bishop, and now if you'll notice, I'm sorry, I'm not up. Let's see, I'm up a rook and a knight right now. So I'm in a completely dominant position. You can see it's plus 6.7. So I'm up 2 pieces right here. So I decide to take off their center pawn. What my opponent should do here is take my knight off and force me to double my pawns, and then they can take this pawn back for free. But my opponent just takes the pawn back, and I'm able to go ahead and take away their central pawns. So that does allow them to pick up a free pawn here, but they go ahead and develop their king. What I should do here is give a check, so that way their king, if it goes here, is now stranded because it can't move anymore, so that would force their king back out into the open. But I go ahead and castle my king and start looking to activate my rook, and my opponent now moves their king there, so this check is no longer possible because they could just take the bishop. So I go ahead and put my bishop right here on c4, because now I've got a knight attacking and a bishop attacking this f7 pawn, and my opponent sees that and plays the move rook to f7. So I go ahead and take with the knight, they take with the rook, and now I'm able to trade a knight and a bishop for a rook and a pawn. And so now I'm only up one piece, but I have two rooks, a bishop and a knight, and they have two bishops and a knight. So I work to start activating my other pieces. I move my knight into the game at d2. My opponent pushes the pawn, and now I push my pawn here, taking this knight away, and so they're forced to move it. So now my opponent's attacking this pawn. I go ahead and see that it's under attack, so I develop it with the move knight to c4. And then my opponent attacks it once again, so I defend it with my bishop here. And my opponent now plays the move pawn to g5, but I have a nice tactic here. My bishop is on the same line as their bishop, and it's undefended, so I play the move pawn to e6 check. Their king is forced to take, and now I'm able to win their bishop right here, and now I'm back up two pieces. And now, unfortunately for my opponent, they play the move knight to e5, and this is where they resign the game, because that simply hangs the knight. They can't take back because the bishop defends the knight, and now it's a bishop and 4 pawns versus a bishop, a knight, 2 rooks, and 6 pawns. I'm in a completely dominant position. The evaluation gives it +10. As long as I don't find some way to stalemate, I'm going to end up winning the game. So my opponent resigned in that position. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. You can see that I had that one section where I didn't give a proper check according to the computer, but I still ended up capitalizing on my opponent's mistakes. Remember, mistakes are only as strong as you make them. If you can spot the mistake, then it's a mistake. But if you can't spot the mistake, then take advantage of what you're playing against. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you enjoyed my commentary. If you liked the video, make sure to check out some more videos on the channel. Drop some comments on how to get better at chess, and maybe drop your elo, and let's keep getting better together, and let's keep grinding. I hope you have a great day.